Good evening, everyone. I am thrilled to welcome you to Miramore Consulting Data Analysis Training. Tonight marks the beginning of a transformative journey, one that will equip you all with the tools, the knowledge to unlock the power of data. And I want to let you know that you have all made a choice to step into a field that is not only in high demand globally, but it is also reshaping industries, it is reshaping economies and the way we understand the world. In one of our previous classes, we had to come up with a charge. And what is this charge about? The charge was to urge every of our students, because we have many students. After this, I'm going to give some of you I'll forward the link, okay, to one of our community groups where all our students for August cohorts are. I think the only person that have been added there is Adeline. Adeline, you're already in that platform. And if you look at that platform, you'll find out that you are there, right?
Yes, yes.
All right. So you find that there are 160 something students there. That means 160 something persons already paid for this course for this month of August. So we'll add you there. Please, when you are there, don't join any other group, because our students are assigned to their groups with their instructor. Like the one you are in now, those of you who have paid, the one you're in, I'm your instructor. I hope we understand. So that, because I notice some persons will now chat me up and say, sir, they notice some groups were added. It's just like me carrying you people's group and plug it to that community. That's a WhatsApp community group we created to just help us keep track of what's going on. So that's just to help us. And there are some alumni we also include here, just so in case some persons would need mentorship guide and all of that, you get it. Welcome, Sir Samson. I hope you can hear me, sir. So I was talking about the charge. What was the charge?
Yes, sir.
The
Good evening,
charge.
sir. Thank you,
Welcome,
sir.
sir. Okay. The charge was to urge every one of us to use our skill, our knowledge, the knowledge we will gather from the training, to shape our country, Nigeria. That charge came during the week of protest. And during that protest, we saw some of the things that went on, which we are hoping that, things get better in the country. And by God's grace, it will. So that charge came because, as data analysts, you have a lot of roles as far as nation building is concerned. Part of the challenge that the country is having is lack of real-time data. If there was real-time data, I believe the government will be able to know if resources allocated gets to the right persons, because the resources do not. It do not. If we as data analysts say, okay, let us follow up with this, we can now look into how much donation from World Bank for humanitarian activities and all of that. How many of you received alerts? Nobody. So, but tomorrow, if anybody wants to question, who do they question? It's the presidency. President Tinubu is the one everybody will blame. But whereas he is actually not at fault, because there are, procedures to these things. So lack of real-time data and analysis is needed. So what I'm trying to say is that you have all made a choice to step into such a field that you can reshape your country, whatever industry you are in or you want to go into, and also the way you understand the world. During our onboarding session, I always say a particular quote that always helps us, our students, set a kind of a tune for the journey they are embarking on. And what is this? This is a notable quote by W. Edwards. W. Edward is a data analyst. We have many of them, scholars in this field. So W. Edward Deming, he said something. Let me open it because as a data analyst, you're a researcher. So everything we do here, okay, everything we do here in this field, please, everything we do in this field must be based on evidence. And that's a principle that guides us here. We are not like the reporters, the news agencies that just publish fake news, no evidence to back it up that it is genuine. You can imagine a lot of things that happen today. So as a data analyst, our data must be based on evidence. So this is the man, W. Edwards Deming. There is something he said, though he's late. There is something he said. He said that without data, you are just another person with an opinion. You can now begin to imagine that statement. Without data, I am just another person with an opinion. Now, what this quote talks about in general, it is passing a message about the essence of what we do as data analysts. Look at it again. Without data, you are just another person with an opinion. It is.
Neighbor, please stop your mic, please. Please, you can continue.
All right. Without data, you are just another person with an opinion. So it's passing a message about the essence of what we do as data analysts. As a data analyst, yeah, we move beyond opinions. That's why I said it must be based on evidence. You don't just assume. Maybe there is this company that have been performing very well. So because they have been performing very well, you just assume that's how everything will keep going. No, we don't assume yet. We move beyond assumptions. We move beyond opinions. We dig into the facts. We find what we call patterns. We drive decisions as a data analyst. These decisions are decisions that can change the world. That's what that quote is actually talking about. Now, back to what we are talking about here, the main essence for this onboarding. The purpose of this onboarding is to help you understand what data analysis is all about. That's why we are here. If you went through the message I sent, you will find out I listed out what we'll be doing as part of our agenda. First, the onboarding session, which you need to know what it's about. Now, when we talk about an onboarding session is an introductory meeting or what we call orientation. You know, in the university, in 100 level, they always have year one orientation. That's what we are doing now. This orientation is designed to welcome and integrate every one of you into this program. So the structure of the program, your expectations during the time in this program, your responsibility, your goals. We'll talk about it. I'm also going to introduce the tools you will use in this training to you, the platforms, the resources. What do I mean? I mean the software for this program, the softwares, our communication channels. I'm also going to do that. We have rules and regulation. The reason is because even the way we talk during class, we have rules. So I will show us how to do it. If you want to say something when the live class is going on, I will show you where you click on. Your hand will be raised up. As ends. the record is sent to the class. You saw I just recorded section 1. By the time we are done for today, I will join it immediately and send it to you. So you know that what you're receiving is your live class, your life. So the way you respond and all of that is part of what I will talk about here, because we have international students. We have students who are joining this training from Canada. You won't know. By when class starts fully Monday, you will see people in the class. Some of them are in the US, they're in other countries, and they join these trainings. They registered for it so that we can have a good time together. So we'll talk about that. For the team leaders and other instructors or mentors who will be supporting you all throughout the program, like I said, they are all busy currently. So, but during the week, I will also introduce them there. Then, when we are done, if you have questions, you will all ask your questions. Then, for contribution, then I'll also give you the charge for your next step as regard this. So this is what this onboarding is actually all about. Now, to begin with, the first thing here is for you to understand this program. What is it about? The program is about data analysis. So what is data analysis? Data analysis is the process of collecting, transforming, and modeling data to discover what we call useful information. I will take it again. Data analysis you are learning is the process of collecting, transforming, and modeling data to discover useful information. After discovering this useful information from it, you then inform and support decision making. That is it. As a data analyst, know that you will become an innovator. If you look at the class group you are assigned into, you saw the title of the class, Innovator. So as a data analyst, you are an innovator. As a data analyst, you are a storyteller. You must be able to tell a story with data. And you will see all of that, how you can do that. Yeah. Let me open something so you just see an example of what a data analyst have to do. Okay. I don't know. I believe everyone can see this screen now. Please, I hope you all can see my screen. You can see this talks about an analysis done for Uber. Okay? By a good friend, a foreigner. Now, looking at this, don't it make sense that is actually telling a story, letting Uber to know, the total distance covered by category. This might look like a small, kind of presentation, but I can tell you that the data used to come to this conclusion is big data because it was complex. But you can see how this data analyst was able to collect the data, to transform it, to model it, to discover an information that will be useful to Uber. Can you all hear me? Hello? I hope you all can still hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Now, let us imagine this. Let's talk about our country. Imagine our country, Nigeria. Please, for those who are not Nigerians, I'm a Nigerian, so I'm just talking about Nigeria here. Okay. So imagine this. A country, Nigeria. A country with over 200 million people. That means 200 million people will be generating a large amount of data every single day. Yes. Forgive me for not even talking about this word data, because if I'm mentioning data, maybe some persons might be confused. Please, let me bring out my notepad the way we do it in class. We are looking at a simple case study now. Data. That's what is at the heart of all the tools you will learn in this training. The word data. Now, data means facts, raw facts. Data means figures. Example of fact here, discussions, all of this, they are facts. Okay? Figures, numbers, and all of that, they means data. So take note. I think somebody wants to join this. Let me add the person in. That's Mr. Gideon. Okay, now that we know what data is raw fact, figures. Now back to what we are talking about. We said imagine Nigeria, an African country, with over 200 million people, generate large amounts of data every single day. You ask me how? Mobile transactions. Do you know how many people that uses it every day, that make calls on phone? Those are data. Go to the hospitals, healthcare records every day. Go to the social media, trends comes out every day. Go to the field of agriculture, the agricultural yields published every day. What does that tell you? That tells you why in our curriculum we had to add this here that talks about data is everything. And when we say data is everything, we also mean that data is everywhere. Now, this data that is everything, this data that is everywhere, is waiting for someone like you to make sense of it. Because when data is at this raw fact figures level, it is meaningless. Yes. As it is, all those mobile transactions of today is meaningless. The healthcare records, they are meaninless unless someone makes sense of it. This Uber analysis I shared, the record was meaninless, but you see how the data analyst made sense out of it, and this can inform decision of Uber. Uber will now know what decision to take and all of that. If you look into this, you will see below, you will see what was used to talk about time series data that has to do with dates. The period with the high line indicate those periods that people will use this Uber the most. That's an insight that is being uncovered. Please, I don't mean to confuse us. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. If I'm saying data is everywhere, waiting for someone like you to make sense of it, then what is your role? Your role is to take this raw data that is everywhere and turn it into insight. That is your role. It is that insight that can improve business. This is an insight, and this insight can improve this business. Call Uber. If we are working on a governmental project, it is the insight that you have turned your raw data into that can drive government policy. Yes, that's it. So what I'm trying to say is, even in the aspect of prediction, where you are to predict future trends, it is that insight that we do that prediction too. Okay. Let us imagine another practical scenario. If somebody wants to join. Let's imagine this scenario. Let's say you are working for a fast-growing fintech company in Lagos. And this fintech company have a large transaction data, but they are struggling with high customers, being able to have high customers. Then you're not given a job. That your job will be to analyze the data they have and find out why customers are leaving. Let's say their customers don't return. You know, there's what we call goodwill. Goodwill is actually a concept for those who study accounting, business. It talks about the probability that your customer will come back again. And it's very important that we always look into, all those aspects. So this company have a problem. Customers are leaving. Like when customers go, they don't come back. For this fintech company, what is a fintech company? A fintech company is a business that uses technology to offer financial services. So the reason why we call it fintech is the two words financial and technology. So they just remove that financial side, then they add tech, then they remove logi side. Okay, so don't be confused on that. So it's a business that offers financial services in an innovative way. Those businesses that have softwares, have applications. Example, your OPay, your Money Points. Okay, all those they are fintech companies because they're also offering products and services offered by other financial institutions like your bank. So PayPal, those of us who use PayPal, all those PayPal, Flutterwave, Paystack, they are all what I'm talking about. Even your digital banking and all of that, cryptocurrency, all those are what I'm saying. So they gave you a job to do for them. That please tell us why our customers are leaving. Of course, you discover that when you discover that most customers who leave are those who don't use a particular feature of the application. Because let's say a fintech company like OPay want to know why. Because for those kind of companies, okay, when a customer leaves, they know. It's just like a customer deletes the application or log out and delete it and don't use it for a long period of time. So they notice that every day the number of customers who stop using the app is increasing. That's the problem I'm talking about. So they now ask you to analyze the data to find out why are these customers stop using their app. Why are they deleting this application? Why are they not using it again? You now came on board as the data analyst and now discover that most customers who leave are those that don't use a particular feature of the app. Because if you open OPay now or any of those fintech app, maybe it's MoneyPoint and all of that, you find out that it has different features. It has the savings. Now they have added data. You can buy data, you can buy airtime, you can save your money, you can transfer. So maybe you find out that those who are leaving are those who are not using, maybe they are not using the savings app. That's what you found out. A particular feature they are not using, they are the ones that leave. You now decided to suggest, let them redesign that particular feature that is making customers to leave. Let them design it, maybe let it be more user-friendly. That way, customers will be retained. That's customer retention will improve. Customers won't leave and all of that. Can you see how you are able to figure out why this fintech, an example of such a fintech company with large transaction data, but struggling to keep their customers? Can you see where you have helped them? If it did not come in, how will they know? How will they be able to track to know how many customers are leaving and the reason behind why customers stop using their app? That's a good example of what you come and do as a data analyst. And that's why I said it, that your role is to take the raw data, turn it into insight that can improve businesses. A man called Cliff Hornby is another scholar I follow a lot. His name is Cliff Hornby. He's also one of an analyst too, a data analyst. He said something about data. When he was asked to define data, what does he see data as? He said, data to me is the new oil. And people begin to ask him, why do you say data is the new oil? He said, there is no difference between data and crude oil. In fact, let me share something on my screen about the data life cycle. I always do this during our onboarding session. Don't worry, you're in the right place. Okay? Everything you want to know about this program, you will know it and you will become a prof in this field. We have trained a lot of persons, they are all doing well. And our major focus is on competence because nothing can beat it. When you're competent, you're good, you're good, you're good. So you have to know this thing. So, this man said that data is the new oil. And that was how he drafted this, the data life cycle. He said that data is valuable. In fact, it is incredibly valuable. But like oil, like crude oil, data needs to be refined. So you're seeing all this stage, the arrow passes here. They are the refining stage. The data needs to be refined. Data needs to be processed. Data needs to be analyzed before it can be used to create what we call value. And that is where you come in. That's where you come in. That means there are different stages here. Of course, yes. The first stage is the data acquisition stage, where you have to gather data. And that's what I'm here for tonight. To introduce this course to you, I've now told you who a data analyst is, why data is everything and everywhere, and I also put you through on where you can go and gather data, because we can see it here that data must first be acquired, just like oil. Oil don't just disappear from anywhere. No, it was first found. So you must know this, that data must first of all be acquired. That data you acquire is what we call raw data, because it is raw. As a matter of fact, the former CEO of HP, many of us uses the system called HP. The former CEO of HP, I've forgotten her name, she said something. She said something. Okay, you can see her here. Carly Fiorina. This woman said something. She said that data must be transformed to what we call information. And after this, transformed again to what we call insight. So what does that tell us? It tells us that data we have acquired is not yet information. Why? Because it is not useful when acquired. Just like oil, when acquired is not useful. It has to be refined. It has to be processed. In fact, let me use the word it needs, because it's a must. It needs to be it needs to be transformed to become information. That transformed again to become what? Insight. So what you pay attention to first is, how do I transform data, the raw data, to information? That's where your first work begins. And after today's class, I will give us an assignment to do before Monday on it, on transformation. How do you transform data to become information? How do you now transform information to insight? Can you see it? So this calls for action. Very important. Why is data analysis important? Why does data analysis matter? You know, students will always come around, ask those questions during trying to make an inquiry. Why is data analysis important? What's the impact of data analysis? I think that's the best word to use. What is the impact of data analysis? Now, I want us to consider some real-world applications here. Let's look at facts. I told you everything we do here is based on evidence. Let's go into healthcare. Do you know that data analysis is used to predict disease outbreak? Yes. If a disease is to come up now, there's one I saw in news. Well, then they call it, there's this disease. Let me try to, I think I saw it somewhere. The ECOWAS. ECOWAS just, I think they called for action recently on it. It wants to look like pox. Okay, the disease wants to look like pox. So, okay, it's called Mpox. That's the name. Mpox. I just remembered. Mpox. Mpox virus. So it's actually a new outbreak. I don't know. Maybe it has been there, but it's okay. You can see duration 2 to 4 weeks. That means it's actually a new outbreak. You can see about it here that Mpox is an infectious viral disease that can occur in humans and other animals, and that the symptoms include a rash, forms blisters, and then crossover fever and swollen lymph nodes and all of that. We are aware. Okay, of course, you can now see something here talking about the untold story of how Nigeria's Mpox outbreak sparked a worldwide. You can see here again from Punch newspapers, Nigeria records 39 Mpox, 5,951 cholera cases. And the government are now looking at saying that more support is needed. The health commissioners are now advocating for enhanced resources for this in fact, this Mpox and cholera outbreak. Now, what am I trying to say? The impact of data analysis. Data analysis will now be used to predict the outbreak of this, to know, can it get to more states, how many persons can it get to, and all of that is analysis, data analysis that will be used to do that prediction. If the commissioners are looking at, resources and all that, data analysis will be used to manage those resources. We saw cases like that during the COVID-19 crisis. It was used to manage resources during pandemics, to know how many states palliative have been distributed to. It was through data analysis that all this was done. In Nigeria, my country, for example, data analysts can help improve the allocation of medical supplies to rural areas. And this was some of the things I was saying that some of the government agencies have not started to do. Because if they have started, how is it possible that Edo State, it was during protests we found out that some of the bag of rice that was allocated to Edo State, we saw on video where it was kept. That means there's no lack of real-time data, monitoring is zero, and a lot of that. And I don't know what the NITDA agency and all of that are doing. So can you see a good example of a real-world application where your skill fits into? Healthcare. If I talk about agriculture, Nigeria, your country, is a country that has a very diverse agricultural sector. With data analysis, Farmers can predict the best planting times. They can identify the right crops for their soil. They can track market prices. Since we're having price issues, they can track it to maximize profit. If we go into the banking sector, finance, both banks, the fintech I used in the case scenario we looked at, can use data analysis to detect fraud. They use it. They use it to manage risks. They use it to tailor services to the needs of their customers. So imagine if maybe you started working with a bank and you are able to help a bank like, let's say, First Bank or Access or GT to identify fraudulent transactions before they cause any damage. Do you know what reward they will give to you? Imagine if you're working with somebody who asked me, sir, so how about an NGO, a non-profit organization? Of course. Imagine if you're working with a non-profit organization in, let's say, Abuja, that's trying to reduce food wastage. Maybe that's one of their mission, reduction of food wastage. They have data on food production. They have data on consumption. They have data on food wastage across the country. They now need you because as a data analyst, you are now needed to uncover that maybe you might uncover that most food waste occurs during the transportation of goods from farms to urban centers. Maybe that was one of your discoveries you unveiled, just as this man did in his dashboard. Now, with this discovery, this is what we call insight. What you discover like this, call it knowledge. With this insight, this knowledge, this discovery, you should know that non-profit organization in Abuja will be able to develop strategies to improve, because this becomes, if we are saying that what you found out was that most food waste occurs during transportation of goods from farms to the urban centers, towns, that means it is a supply chain problem. Supply, because it means that when they are supplying it from farm to urban, it's waste. That's a supply chain. So what this organization will do is to come up with strategies to see how they can improve the supply chain, how they can reduce waste, how they can ensure that food reaches those in need. Because if it does not reach, it's not like the supply will be low and the demand, people need food. Food is a necessity. People need it to eat. So the demand will be high, but the supply will be low. And when the supply is low like that, what do you think? Those in the market who have it can now increase their price. And it's now seeing price also increase everywhere and all of that. Why? Because, in Nigeria, you can now talk about security issues that also hinder it. Because it's not only going to be that food waste. Security that hinders it. People can't go to farm in the north to actually, produce foods. So supply of food now becomes low out of fear of going to the farm and being attacked and all of that. So you understand what I'm saying? So this is important. Very important. In today's world, data is key. In fact, we'll talk about credibility. It is the key to credibility. So whether you're in business, whether in the healthcare, whether you're in government, data backs up your decisions with evidence. And when it is like that, when you work based on evidence, your recommendation will be hard to ignore. That's why everything you do must be based on it. So your recommendation, whatever you recommend to a company, it will be hard for them to ignore because they are seeing the proofs towards what you're doing. They are seeing it. Now that you have known all this, what skill do you need to gain? Or what skill will you gain throughout our training year on data analysis in Miramo? Throughout this training, you will learn first what is known as data collection and cleaning. Very important. If you look at the life cycle I shared, data acquisition stage, that's what we call collection. To acquire is to collect. So we'll train you on how to collect data. Data acquisition is the same thing as data collection. Now, I did not only talk about data, I did not only list data collection here. I said and cleaning. That means data collection is one thing, cleaning is another. And you can see it here in the life cycle I shared. After data have been acquired, it now what? Data cleaning. Can you see it? So gathering data is one thing. Cleaning the data is another. Why? Because when you gather data, that data is dirty. And dirty data leads to inaccurate results. So you will learn first how to prepare your data for analysis. Very important. Secondly, you will learn data visualization. So you see why all the lessons are cut across all this. Data visualization. Data visualization talks about presenting your data. What this man did here is data visualization. He just presented this data in a way that it is easy to understand. So presenting data in a way that's easy to understand is important. So in our training, you will learn how to create compelling charts like this, how to build dashboards using tools like Tableau, Power BI, Excel. We'll train you on that. You can use Excel to do the same thing. We'll train you on that. In our training, you will also what we call statistical analysis. Why? Because we can't talk about data analysis without talking about statistics. It's an error. Statistics is at the core of analysis. So under this scope of statistical analysis, you will learn how to identify what we call trends. You will learn how to identify correlations. Correlation talks about relationship, cause effect. What causes this to happen? Why did the price increase? All of that, you look at the relationship. You learn what we call patterns in data. Very important. In the course of this training, you will learn, we will now look into other aspects because of time. We'll talk about the SQL and databases. So here, we'll train you on mastering the language of database. Now, when we talk about database, it's a very important concept because of why. If you look at this life cycle, and you see where we have data storage. What does it mean? It means after you have acquired data, you will keep it somewhere. That place where you keep data, we call it a database. It's just like you went to the market, you bought things. So after buying things, you came to the kitchen, you drop it inside somewhere. That place you drop, if it's like a refrigerator, that becomes the database. So data have a place where it is kept. Where data is kept is a database. Is when we now say, oh yeah, let us now review this definition. We now start defining it. A database can be defined as the collection. Now start adding all the grammar. Just know that a database is where data is kept. Simple. So if you want to now refine it, that's fine. But it is where data is kept. So let's take note of that. We'll train you on that, especially this language called SQL. We'll also train you on how to query large data sets. Another word. Database, we have what we call data sets. You learn how to query it, how to retrieve it, how to manage it. What is data sets? Another word that used to confuse students. Now, remember I said data means raw fact, figures. Data set is a collection of these raw facts and figure. So a collection of raw fact and figure is what? A data set. When you put all this together, that's a data set. So when you will be working in this class, we'll be going to different platforms to gather. What we gather, we call it data sets. It can be in different formats, can be in Excel format, CSV, and all of that. So that's when we say manage, query, retrieve, data set. That's what we're talking about. That data, collection of it, putting together. Then database is now a collection of data sets, because this data set needs to be kept in a place called the database. So can you see? And you have to manage it, because it's like you want to talk to somebody, you want to communicate, you want to control something, you want to ask for something, you want to do this management. You need to speak a language that data understands. And that's where SQL comes in, because it is a data language. So during the training, we are starting with SQL to give you the exposure. Apart from this, you will then be trained on advanced tools like the Python. So we'll learn Python, how it can be used for data management, data manipulation, and all of that. The libraries like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, and all of that. We'll train you on it. You also learn Excel. Excel. The reason why we don't call Excel a complete database system is because Excel has limitation. For example, there is a number of data Excel cannot handle. Excel ends at 1,048,000. That's where Excel ends. So if you have a data set of 2 million, Excel can't handle it. It can't open it. Yes, that's what it means. So such system now, we can't trust it. We can't use it. That's why you see us use Python, use MySQL. Because you can't give me something to do. Can you see the end of Excel? 1,048,576. I can't work with this. So if it's a bank, so you expect them to use this? No, it's not possible. That's why even the federal government, they make use of Oracle. And Oracle is a database system that uses the SQL language. So can you see why you will master the language of database called SQL? Because it's powerful. So you learn Excel. You also learn for visualization to be able to communicate your findings. You will now learn what we call Power BI and learn what we call your Tableau for visualization. So if, for example, just imagine if you're part of a team and this team, we are actually tasked to improve education in northern Nigeria. That means I have to analyze, for me to improve education in northern Nigeria, there are things you have to do. Now, that brings us to something. There are steps we follow in this field. There are steps we follow in this field. Let me share something with us. The first step, now take note of this problem I'm talking about. How do we improve educational outcomes in northern Nigeria? Maybe we notice that northern Nigeria in terms of educational outcomes is actually at a poor level. How do we improve it? The first thing you do as a data analyst is to begin metrics. Another could be resource allocation. Okay, you look at the schools, you find that the buildings are not updated and all of that. You know, so that means could be a problem of resource. Maybe the budget, they actually allocate certain amount of money, but it's not utilized. That becomes a metric. Say, okay, let me analyze the resource allocated. Let me analyze the resource allocated to these states. At the end of the day, you move to the next, which is to collect and analyze the relevant data. The data you now need to collect it. When you've collected it, you clean it, analyze it, obtain insight from it. Your insight here will now help the local government, the state, to focus resources where they are needed the most to improve education of thousands of children in the north. After you have obtained this insight, for the local government to be able to derive this, you have to now take it to them. So that's where you have to increase your communication skill. So you have to now take it to them. Communicate how this your findings, this your data will impact educational outcome in northern Nigeria. This is the reason why a man called Stephen Few said something. He's also a powerful author and a data analyst too. One that I also follow. If you go through his pages, you will see he has been working 25 years as an IT innovator and a teacher, a consultant, and all of that. He also developed certain data visualization principles, especially when you're using Tableau. So you can check out on his pages just to practice. Now, this man called Stephen Few said something because he has his own style of visualization in Power BI and most of these tools. He said something that I love so much. He said numbers have an important story to tell. And that's what this man is doing here. And that's true. Every number has an important story to tell. These numbers rely on you to give them a clear and convincing words. And that's it. You then ask me, sir, why should I love data analysis? Why? Some students ask me that, they just come, they call. Why should we love it? It is a field to fall in love with. Why? One of the reasons is because it is empowering. You have the power to drive change. Your analysis can help businesses grow, like I shared. It can improve healthcare outcomes. It can save lives. It can even save lives. Why should I love it? It is rewarding. There is a demand for data analysts. So whether you want to work for a top tech company, you want to start your own consulting firm, like those of us I was interacting with today, that you can start your consulting firm. Go to CAC after your training, you can go to CAC, register a consulting firm. You can work in the public sector. So it is rewarding. Why should I love it? It is fun. It is like solving some puzzles and all of that. To me, each data set here is a new challenge. And the more problem you solve, the more interesting it becomes. So, you understand? These are the reasons. And like I told us, what Kalina said, that the goal, that's the former CEO of HP, Kalina Florina, that the goal, your goal is to turn data into information. And afterwards, turn this information again into insights. Before we wrap up tonight's session, we have different types of data analysis, but three notable types. The first is what we call descriptive analysis. So everything we do here will fall on this, descriptive analysis. Descriptive analysis is the type of analysis that looks into what has happened. It has already happened. So if a business, you see us solving problem, we say we want to know the reason why so-so company failed last year. Last year have already passed. Or why this company got so-so results last month or yesterday or this morning. This morning have already passed. So it's already in the past. That's descriptive analysis. The type of analysis that talks about what has already happened. The second, which our scope focus on, is what we call predictive analysis. Predictive analysis is the type of analysis where data analyst looks into what might happen, future events. So while descriptive talks about what has happened, predictive talks about what might happen. What might happen tomorrow? Businesses wants to know how will next week be for them and all of that. Predictive. The third is what we call diagnostic analysis. It talks about why. Why did it happen? So they want to know why did they fail? Why did they succeed? Why? Why did it happen? That's diagnostic analysis. Why did it happen? The root cause. You must know why to everything. Number 4 is what we call prescriptive analysis. Apart from these three, prescriptive is important because you must be able to recommend. You must be able to do that. Like I told us what Stephen Few said, that numbers have an important story to tell. They rely on you to give them a clear and convincing voice. Because once you are not able to give them a clear and convincing voice, then you must problem. So you must communicate how this impacts. That communicating now talks about prescriptive analysis, communication, recommendation. What should they do? What should they do? Now that they have known why it happened, what should they do? Do you understand? When we started the fintech example we used, like OPay, what did we say? We talked about what they should do at the end. After we found out why customers might leave because of a feature that is not working, it happens. Because customers are different people that needs to be studied. Plenty persons can say, this people's app is always maybe a particular bank. Their app, anytime you want to open it to check your money, to transfer, it's always, they can decide not to use that app again. And there are a lot of competitors around. They will use another one. So you will not tell them to, when you found out the problem, what should they do? You have to tell them, maybe let them work on it. Let them do this. You have to now communicate it with them. So all these are important. Very important. So before we go, I want every one of us to still go through this today's lecture. Okay? And do something for me. As a data analyst, we have two different platforms we go and gather data. Two different purposes why we gather data. Purpose one is for practice. The one you use to practice. Purpose two is for your real work for an organization. So for practicing at this level we are, we go to where we call Kaggle. So we go to Kaggle to gather data. So I want us to do that practical exercise, and I will also show us how to register on Kaggle. Okay, I will also show us how we download live data from a web practice platform like Kaggle. Kaggle is an open source platform where data analyst goes to gather data sets they want to use to practice. Because you can't go to that place and take data that belongs to, you can't go to that place and take data that belongs to somebody else to say you want to use it for your own for a real company work. That's error. Okay, you can ask your question, man, while I go to Kaggle. I told you to ask a
Okay.
question.
Yes. Okay. My question is that Gaku, we do that only on system, right?
No, the Kaggle, you can open it on your phone. Anything that has to do with
Yes.
web makes use of internet. Okay, so on your phone you can use it, you can download your data set on your phone. Now data set, like I told us, is a collection of data. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Example, this thing I opened here, look at my screen. This is selected food reports for zone. Okay, let's come here. Can you see my Excel screen? This is what we call a data
Yes.
set. This is a data set. So this is what you go to Kaggle to go and download, so that you can now use it to analyze, to answer certain questions or solve problem. Do you understand? Do you get it now, man? Now, what you have to do first, go to Kaggle and register as a user, so that anytime you are signing into Kaggle, you have free access to it. So it is a community. I am also a member there. I publish data sets. I can prepare a data set now and send it. There was one I was doing today. I can just post it. It's open source. So it's for practice. You don't use it for real work. When it's not real work, you contact the organization to give you data. If they say go and gather it, then you go to different reputable platforms where you gather real-time data. For example, in Nigeria here, we have the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. We have other platforms. You'll be trained during the training. But for today, come to Kaggle, this Kaggle. Click on this first one, kaggle.com. Select it. The moment you select it, it's going to load up and bring you here. You can see it just brought my name. But yours, since you're not a first-time user, okay, you're a first-time user rather, what it will show you, let me sign out so that you see where it will show you. Once you start here, it will bring you here. So come at the top here, click on register. So if you use phone, you also see that register. Click on it. It will now bring you here. On this part, choose this within these two options. Register with Google means your email is already open on your system. If it is open already, use register with Google. It will just connect, ask you which mail you want to use. Register with email is the one you should just go for. So click on that one, register with email. Put your email address, put your password, put your full name. Password is minimum of 7 characters. Put your full name that will be displayed on your Kaggle profile. Choose I am not a robot. Click next. Once you have done that, that's all. You will have access to Kaggle. So it's that straightforward and easy. Like I told us, we come here to gather data set to practice. So if I come to Kaggle now, like this, and I click, and I said maybe I want to work, I need data sets to use and work, I will just sign in. Let me sign in with Google. So let me select the email I want to use to sign in. This is the email, this second one. You can see that it's loading up to sign me in. Okay. Now I need a data set to work with. What will I do? On the left part, I will choose data set. After choosing data set, I will come to the search bar and search for the data set I want. So if I'm working on something that have to do with football, I will come and type football data set, maybe a match prediction or whatever. I will choose football. I will now come here, choose data sets here, data sets. So it will now show me all the football data sets people have uploaded. I say it's not real time. People have uploaded. So I will now look for anyone I like. Maybe there is something I want to do as per football. I'll now look for it. If it's something like this, I'll select it. That's data set. After selecting it, what do? I will read through the description they provided about it to understand the structure of that data set. Every data set has a structure. This Excel data set in Excel format is in a structure we call table, because it is table that has columns and rows. What we call relational database. I did not say it before. Database is a place where we store data. We have two types of database. We have what we call relational database and non-relational. Relational database are those database where you find out that data are stored in a table. Anytime you open any database, any data set, you're seeing a structure like this. It means it is in a relational database. It has two dimensions, two components, columns and row. What do the columns represent? The columns represent the information about the data point. What is data point? In your data set, each data, these are the data. Each of these data, which I say fact and figures, each data you're seeing here are what we call data points. If we don't call it data points, we call it data items. If we don't call it data items, we call it data elements. So your column is what represents the information about your data points. If I want to know what does Bielsa 1685 represent, it represents the highest amount, because I have the column description that tells me that. What does row represent? Row is a data component of this table structure, data structure, that represents the data points. So take note, in analysis, we don't call columns, we call it fields. Fields. Some people call it field. Some systems you will see field, it means column. Some you will see attributes, it means column. So don't call it column, we call it fields or attributes. Rows, we don't call it rows, we call it record. If we don't call it record, we call it observation. So if I am teaching, or we have a project we are working on, and we are saying let's go to observation 50, you should know where we are going to. Let's go to record 100, you should know where we are going to. Because in database systems, these are some terminologies you have to take note of. I hope we understand this. So these things are important. Now I was saying this. Now where you find that a data set contains this structure, it is a relational database. But a relational database is a database, that type of database, where data is stored in what we call tables. That makes it relational, because a table is a data structure that contains related data. Every data here are related. They are all related. So take note of that. Every data here are related. Non-relational database, which is the second, is the opposite. They are databases that do not have this structure. Data is not stored on tables. So take note of this. Now that we understand this, when we come here to Kaggle, what do? We look for the data. This is it. We'll come to download and download it. But we have to study to understand the structure. There are times when you have certain problem to work on, like the education we talk about. In such instances, most times, you have to establish or define. You have to define the structure of the table. You have to do that so that you work with. If you look at what we said here, we said you have to collect. You have to collect what? Collect and analyze relevant. Relevant means that not every aspect of the data is needed. You have to take away the irrelevant. That's part of data cleaning. In data cleaning, you clean typo errors, you clean duplicate errors, you take away irrelevant. You don't need things that are irrelevant. So if we are looking at this and we say so many columns are not needed, what do? We take them away because at that point they are irrelevant. I hope we understand this. So you have to study all this. Now that we have downloaded it, I go to my download. I click on the archive file that comes up. I select the file. You can see it here, FIFA. I open it. What do you notice? You can see it opens like this. It tells you that it is in a relational database format. And that's what I'm talking about. Now, so that's how we do it. So please, everybody had to sign up, then learn how to download data. That's how we download the data. So when we say how to register on Kaggle, we have done it now. How to download live data, we have done it now. You would always target where we have download. Can you see it? The one we'll now learn later is how to import live data from local machine to workbook in Excel in our next class. Now that we have done this, we have other platforms we use for practice, not only Kaggle. We have what we call the UCI Machine Learning Repository. UCI. Open it also. That one you don't even need to sign in. You can also have access to data set. Yeah, UCI Machine Learning. You come to search data set, anyone you have, you download. Just have done. We also have what we call data.gov. Data.gov is actually a US platform, so you also have data there. All these ones are for practice. For practice, not for real work. Like I said, for practice, you come down, you search for any data set you want, you download it. You start to uncover insights, from what. Okay, go on, now. I can hear you.
Okay, please. I think you've given us about two places like the Gago and another one that you said we can go for practice. Please, in after you are done, can you just please help us write them out so we can just go get them? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand you very well, and that's a good one. Okay, so the Kaggle, I will write it down on the group, the Kaggle, the UCI Machine Learning Repository, and the data.gov. So I'll also send the link so that it will be easier for us to do that. Now, before we round up in class, when you are downloading data sets, there is something you must understand, because even when you're working for a company, and maybe it's a financial company, they want you to uncover something for them, you can now go to reputable platforms like the CBN, because in the CBN, which is the Central Bank of Nigeria, you have access to data. Do you understand? You now come to somewhere like this, come to their statistics section, you see a lot of data about you can see data and statistics. So whatever it is now, you now come here to gather data that you need. If it is data that have to do with crude oil price or whatever, you have to now come. This one now is repeatable, is reliable. Do you understand? So if I want to take this now, sit down. Can you see export crude oil production and price? I will now select it. And it downloads it here. I open it. This one is for work. So that's why I said they are different. The one you use to work and the one you use to practice. If a company is telling me, help us analyze crude oil export, maybe it's for an oil company, a petroleum company, for so period, see it here. From 2Cs, this one now, work with it. They cannot blame me for anything because it's from a reputable platform, CBN. If we don't trust such data from CBN, where are we going to trust again? No. So CBN is a source you must hold to gather data, legit data. The Nigerian Bureau of Statistics is another source. You can see how easily we're able to gather relevant data. It's another source. The World Bank, if you're looking at global analysis, World Bank open data is another one. World Bank open data. You can gather data from it. It has its data portal. It has the data bank. Yeah, many datas are. You want to check for China, for so. You can come here and gather whatever data you want to gather. If we come here, click on data, you'll be able to do that. You search the country, explore. If we talk about Africa, we have African Union. So these are things, areas that you data analysts will spend time looking at. Okay, if it has to look into African development, we have the African Development Bank. Open data, also available. So these are repositories where we go and gather data for work that we want to do, because these platforms are reliable. Please, let's take note of this. And before we close for tonight, when we gather, what we gather is data sets. Don't forget, what we come to gather is data sets. Good. Now, when we come to gather data, we download data. You must know this. Data set is a collection, like I said. Now, when you gather data sets, when you download data set comes in two situations. The first situation is when data set comes with a description of the data it contains. Can you see it? This description is what we call metadata. I take it again. When a data analyst extracts data set comes in two situations. The first situation is when data set comes with a description of the data it contains. And I said that description is what we call metadata. What is metadata? If you go to your Google to search, Google will tell you that metadata means data about data. It is correct. And I will tell you why. You can see. It says it is defined as the information that describes and explains data. That's data about data. Two different data. That's what it means. Now let's go to that data set. We say data set comes with a description. This description, you need to always highlight it. Let it be clear. So let me just put a color this here now. Good. Why does this mean data about data as Google prescribed? Because ye is data. Yes, ye is data. All what it has here is data. So it's like saying ye is describing this data. That's data about data. So that's why Google here is telling you to that what? That metadata is data that provides information about other data. So what it means is that ye is providing information about what? Other data. So what helps you to know that this column A is ye is the fact that you find out a description called ye. So imagine if all this description was not there. How will you know what E is? You won't know that E means crude oil whatever. You won't know. You may be able to identify this due to the characteristics you can see clearly. But can you study these other ones? You won't. That is the second situation data comes. For data set that comes with a description about the data it contains, we call that description metadata. But for data set that comes without a description, we call it unstructured data. And that is why, as a data analyst, the data that becomes information is what we call structured data. For data to become information, it must be processed. For data to be processed, it must be cleaned. When you're cleaning your data must be structured. It must adopt what we call the principle of normalization. You must ensure that it adheres to that principle. When we look into that principle, it still brings us back to metadata. Because under metadata, we have two subdomains. The first domain talks about lineage metadata. Lineage metadata is a subdomain of metadata that emphasizes on the source where you got this data from. That first, that source, is it legit? Is it valid? That's what it asks you about. The author, do you know this author? What purpose was this data gathered? To be sure that it is in order. Then, the second subdomain talks about what we call quality metadata. Quality metadata is what we also refer to as data quality. So every data must meet those quality for it to be structured, for it to become information. It must meet those quality, those expectations. Quality number one, data must be consistent. It means data must be in the right format. Data must be unique. It means your data must not be biased. Sir Samson, I thought you wanted to ask a question, sir.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. I like you were making sense, so I was trying to listen to pay attention to what you're saying. Sir.
Okay.
Okay, bring your hands down then, Mr. Samson. Bring your hands down. You're raising up your hand.
Okay, all right. Thank you. There's a question here actually talking about just a moment. Yeah, steps to solving problems with data analysis. All right. So you talk about understanding the goal. Then, in addition, identify the metrics to solve the problem. All right. So my question here is that you gave instances of metrics actually. So they are the vocal point, like questions attached to the problems. So you made reference to educational system in the north and north. So how do you uh you know those questions now? For instance, you made mention of maybe the attendance, then the what is it, allocation, all right, allocation and many others. So how do you streamline your metrics, and or better still, how do you determine the number of metrics, all right, to solving a particular problem, having understand the goal? I don't know if you get what I'm asking, sir.
Yeah, if I understand you well, you're saying now that we have understood the goal. Okay, can you hear me, sir? Hello? Please, can you?
I can just hear you, sir. I can just hear you now, sir.
Okay. So if I got you well, you said that now that we have understood the problem. Hmm? Are you there?
Yes, I'm with you, sir.
Now that we have understood the problem, I made
Yes,
of attendance as metrics.
yes, sir.
How do you determine the number of what?
The number of metrics, like in solving, in identifying, for yeah, the number of metrics to use to collect your data in data collection.
Okay. Okay, the number of metrics. How do you identify
Yeah, in data collection.
metrics?
Yes.
Metrics.
For
All
instance, you
right.
talk about attendance, talk about the
Now,
allocation, talk about yeah.
okay, I think I've understood you. Now,
Yes, sir.
determining the number of metrics to use when you're addressing a problem. I'm happy you understand what metrics are. Now, determining those metrics, the number of metrics to use when addressing a problem, like the educational outcome in northern Nigeria I talked about, involve certain steps. The first still mean you have to understand the problem, the goal. Do you understand? When you've understood
Yes, sir.
the problem, you have to define the problem you're trying to solve.
Mm,
For example, in this scenario, the problem is improving educational outcome in northern Nigeria.
mm,
We now said for this to work, we have to look at attendance, we have to look at academic performance because there might be poor academic performance, which we need to look into. We said resource allocation, which might be leading to inadequate infrastructure or even shortage for quality teachers. Do you understand? So you must first
Yes, sir.
understand the problem, then clearly do this. You must have a drawing board. You draw all these things I say. This thing I say is not something you just jump in. No, no, no. You draft it. I wish I can retake this to recent. You will see a lot of drafting we do in our classes. Do you understand? Now you identify the goals. What is the goal? How can educational outcome be improved? We say it will be improved by increasing school attendance. It will be improved by increasing the student literacy. It will be improved by enhancing teacher effectiveness. It will be improved by ensuring that there is adequate learning materials. And all these things are what the metrics is also focusing on. If there will be learning materials, then resource need to be allocated. After you have identified the goal, you now break down the problem into different areas that need attention. Attendance. You ask a question. Are students regularly attending school? That will now make you know. If you say the number of metrics to use, are students regularly attending school? You're the researcher, you're the analyst. You now know how many schools you want to cover. Do you understand? Nobody is putting it at you.
Sir.
Most times the work will come with requirements. That's part of it. You need to understand the needs. They will tell you that this is what they need. They want you to cover 50 schools. That's now your population. They want you to cover 50 schools. They want you to look at setting this and all of that. So are students regularly attending school? How do you know if students regularly attending school? Will you take only half students? No, now. Will you take only students in social local government? No, now. You need to look at the entire for you to be able to conclude that students are not attending school or not. So look at that question now. Are students regularly attending school in the aspect of metrics of attendance? Then you will know how many number of what you want to use. If we talk about academic performance, are students achieving their desired academic results? So how do you know if they are achieving if you don't focus on a larger set? Are teachers well trained? If we talk about teacher quality, are they well trained and effective? So how do you know if they are well trained and not effective or effective? If you don't, you understand? So you have to break down the problem. If we talk about infrastructure, are the schools equipped with the necessary facilities? These are things. So when you broke it down, you now select relevant metrics for each area. For each area, you now have to choose metrics that will allow you to measure progress. Remember, metrics are used to measure performance, to measure progress, to assess, to track. So metrics should be specific. Metrics should be measurable. Metrics should be actionable. If we say attendance now, are you there with me, Mr. Sampson? See the metrics.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The
Thank you.
metrics for attendance. The metrics you need, this question you asked is a good question. The data you need to measure attendance as a metrics, you need quantitative data. That's what you work with often. We say attendance now. To know if students are attending school or how attendance have in the relationship of attendance with educational outcome in northern Nigeria, you need the daily attendance rate. And this is a quantitative data. You need it from all schools. That is what you need for this is now like the percentage of enrolled students who attend school each day. You need that record. It will be in a data format like this. The school will give it to you. Have I tried to answer your question? Daily attendance.
In fact, I am glad.
The school
I'm
will give
glad.
this to you.
You said something. Yes, sir. You said something that is very germane, like that, because I'm trying to see the prioritization of the metrics. You are giving in your analysis. I am saying we have different metrics actually, but in this case, we can streamline our metrics based on their quantitativeness. Like, is it measurable? All right. So
Specific.
I
Is it
think I
specific?
understand it better.
Is it specific? Is
Is
it
it yes?
something you can
Is it
measure?
specific?
It must be
Yes, sir.
measurable. If it's not measurable,
Yes, sir.
it's disqualified.
Yes, sir.
Actionable. Do you understand?
Yeah, actionable. Yes, sir.
Attendance, daily attendance rates will help us achieve attendance goal.
Yes, sir.
It will. You can also look into enrollment rates, percent
Mm.
eligible children enrolled in school. But this daily attendance
Yes.
rate is okay because in it, that data now is data that will show you all students who attend school every day.
Mm.
You can now bring
Mm.
to know how many are male, how many are female, and all of that. If we talk about
Yes, sir.
academic performance, academic performance. Yes,
Yes, sir.
you can now look at graduation rate. That's the data you now tell them to give you. Please, I want people to give me the percentage of students who complete their schooling. Because that's where you now find out that maybe students who not all students who come to school actually graduate. Maybe so many drop out. Do you understand? Graduation rates.
Yes, sir.
Graduation rate data is also going to be quantitative and qualitative because their name will be there. So quantitative and qualitative. Now, please, I did not mention there are two types of data. Take note, everybody.
Ah,
Of data.
we've already, please, let's be time conscious because sometimes we just have to like let us just try to do all our learning and teaching within a stipulated time. This is already 10 o'clock.
Okay. So let's just take these two types of data, then let's close. It's very important. I forgot to mention. Okay, there are two types of data. One we call
Primary and
one we call alphanumeric data, and two we call multimedia data. So every data analyst must take note. Alphanumeric. Alphanumeric means text and numbers. Okay, so any data that involve text, numbers is alphanumeric, like this. That's the common one you work with as a data analyst. Numbers, text, number, text. Alpha means text, numeric means numbers. Okay, now inside alphanumeric, we now have what we call quantitative. So why I said this now is because of this quantitative here. Let you not confuse us. Quantitative data and qualitative data. So qualitative now is the text. So if I'm saying that a data set is to contain daily attendance rate, quantitative and qualitative, I mean alphanumeric, because names of the students will be there in that attendance sheet. So it's mixture. I hope you understand it. It becomes a mixture. It becomes a mixture. So I just hope you understand it. Qualitative data. So multimedia is those data like company like MTN. They are working with audio. Audio is a data. Images is a data. Video is a data. Multimedia talks about this type of data. Audio, images, video. How do you analyze it? So before we go, in the aspect of performance, you now look at graduation rate data. You gather it to know the student that completes their schooling. You can look into their results. Maybe you choose subjects, maths and English. Okay, that one now you give it another name, maybe subjects, performance, and all of that. Look at the scores they got for maths, for English. Lastly, we talk about teachers' quality. So teachers' quality can also be a metrics. For these metrics now, you now look into how data you should uncover. You first check, is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it actionable? You say yes. Okay. Let me know the teachers each school have. Then you look at number of teachers in every school. That will be another data you have to gather. When you have gathered that one, you now go to qualification of teachers. You now list out your own criteria for qualification. You now say, okay, BSc, MSc, ND, this, that. Now look at number of teachers with this qualification, number of teachers with this qualification. They send that data to you, their name and qualification. You gather it. We now talk about, lastly, infrastructure. Infrastructure own. You now also generate metrics for it. You look at the number of classrooms in each school, the number of students per classroom, the learning materials, in each school, how many textbooks do they have, and all of this, you gather those data. When you have this, it has solved that problem for you. Do you understand? You now test it. It's like when we build models. You build your model, you now build a model and test the model. You see how these metrics, this data works in practice. You try to find useful insight from them. For example, if we are now focusing on daily rates, daily attendance, you know that to measure something like daily attendance will be challenging because of the data collection. It might be challenging. So instead, you might say, let me track monthly attendance. Maybe at the end of the month, let them just give me the, you understand? And all that. So look at all these things. You then try to link these metrics, to, in fact, for example, okay, maybe you find that teacher quality is actually a problem. The level of teachers they have, the quality is low. You now look at prescriptive analytics, recommendation. You now recommend to them that, okay, they should introduce a program to improve teacher training. Do you understand? But before that can work, you must have a data to back up and inform that decision. Then you also have to monitor it, assess the progress in case there might be adjustments and all of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for being. Is it a question?
No, yeah, a very beneficial question. Talking about the installation of the MySQL.
Okay, okay. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, so quickly, for the first training we're having, we'll start with a tool called MySQL. Okay, so everybody are expected to download it. So I have downloaded it already. It's in a folder. So I'm going to send that folder to us. So on that folder, you will find out that, let me even bring it out. On the folder, you find out that we have, yeah,
But sorry, I thought you said we will discuss that one in the next class. Let's just put that one in the next class so that we will not
okay,
just be
okay,
divided.
okay, okay. All right, all right. So I will send, like I said, I will send the folder. We are done. I will send the folder to the group. Okay, everybody access it. You'll find out that the training is already, the training applications we are learning is in it. So at Sir Samson, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so we are done with the training and with the onboarding. No? We're done with the onboarding. So those that would want to leave, it's fine. So this is the SQL application. So we are going to start this training with MySQL. So I will send this application to you, sir. So what
Okay, sir.
you do is to download it. Okay, you download it into your system, then you take it from there. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Meanwhile, like I told us to download it, there is a sub record I did on that, which I will still forward to us so that we can use it to see how we can have access to what we need. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for tonight's training, and
Thank you, sir.
I hope the onboarding was cool. So as we wrap up tonight's session, I want you to remember from all what we have said, I want you to remember that you are not just learning a skill, you are stepping into a future where your ability to interpret data will open doors to endless possibilities. So this is the start of such an exciting journey, and I am honored to be part of it with you. Let us
Thank you, sir.
be curious, let us ask questions in class, and most importantly, have fun with data. I can't wait to see the amazing things Fumi will be doing, the amazing things Sir Samson, Sir Harry, Sir Gideon, and
Yes, sir.
you've started.
Thank you, sir.
I will do well.
So thank you, and I can't see
Thank you, sir.
to see what the amazing things you will achieve. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in our first official class on Monday. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. So I will be expecting us. I will be expecting, sir.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank
So
you, sir.
officially class close. Bye.